On the night of July 11, 2015, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman sat inside cell number 20 at Altiplano, Mexico's most heavily fortified facility. To break someone out of this compound from the exterior, you would have to breach 3-foot-thick reinforced concrete walls, evade heavily armed military patrols, and navigate completely restricted airspace. The interior offered even less room to maneuver. Hundreds of motion sensors and unblinking cameras fed directly into a central command station, watched around the clock by federal agents. The architects who designed Altiplano in 1990 built a fortress that was impossible to penetrate from the sides or from above. They assumed the dense earth directly beneath the foundation would do the rest of the work. Look closely at the layout of Cell 20. Between the bed and the far wall, there is a 50 by 50 centimeter floor drain, shielded by a short partition. Because of the angle, this small shower stall was the only blind spot in the entire room. At exactly 8:52 p.m., the live camera feed captured Guzman walking over to the shower. He bends down behind that short wall to rinse off, and then he simply never stands back up. The command center didn't experience a glitch, and the guards didn't look away. Guzman had methodically pinpointed this single architectural flaw in an otherwise flawless security grid and dropped right through the floor. Exactly 1 mile away from the prison walls sits a small cinder block house. The cartel purchased this plot of land shortly after Guzman was incarcerated. To anyone passing by, it looked like a totally ordinary, half-finished construction site. But breaking in from this distance presents an immediate spatial conflict. You have to navigate a tunnel for a full mile underground, entirely blind, and hit a target no wider than a shower grate. This animated blueprint illustrates their solution. Using surveyor equipment on the surface and GPS coordinates smuggled into the prison on a digital device, cartel engineers were able to map the exact trajectory required to intersect with Cell 20. Carving a shaft nearly 6 feet high and 3 feet wide across that distance means extracting roughly 3,000 tons of dirt. Moving that kind of volume with dump trucks would instantly trigger a military response. Instead, they used the hollow shell of the cinder block building as a container. They packed the excavated earth directly into the house, stacking it all the way to the ceiling, completely hiding the operation from aerial surveillance. The cartel successfully masked a massive excavation by hiding it in plain sight, using a mundane civilian structure to defeat a militarized surveillance state. Looking at this cross-section of the terrain, you can see the engineers didn't dig straight across. They dug 30 feet straight down first. Heavy machinery creates vibrations that prison seismographs easily detect, but at 30 feet deep, the dense earth acts as a natural sound dampener. But digging at that depth introduces a critical geographic hazard. Mexico is built over an ancient lake bed. The water table is extremely high, and the soft, saturated soil is prone to instant catastrophic collapse. To keep the earth from crushing the diggers, the crew installed a sophisticated structural support system, placing custom-cut timber and steel framing every few feet along the entire mile-long route. Once the tunnel progressed inward, a biological threat emerged. 30 feet below ground with no ventilation, workers will suffocate rapidly from ambient carbon dioxide and the thick dust kicked up by excavation. They solved this by running a continuous PVC piping system along the ceiling. An industrial generator hidden back inside the cinder block house pumped fresh oxygen directly to the working face of the tunnel, while a secondary pipe extracted the toxic fumes. They even ran miles of electrical wiring, hanging incandescent bulbs at perfectly measured intervals, so the diggers could see exactly what they were carving. The final breach into the cell required surgical precision. Instead of using loud jackhammers right beneath the guards' feet, the crew likely applied corrosive chemicals over several days, slowly softening the concrete until it could be quietly popped out from below. This operation required massive funding, architectural planning, and industrial-grade logistics, all executed directly beneath the feet of federal police. When Guzman drops through that chemically softened hole in the floor, he leaves his digital GPS tracker sitting in the dust behind him. He climbs down a short wooden ladder and steps into the brilliantly lit, oxygen-pumped corridor, completely severing his connection to the cameras above. But he doesn't have to walk a mile in the dark. Waiting for him at the bottom is a custom-modified motorcycle. The cartel engineers removed the front tire, welding the chassis directly onto steel rails that ran the entire length of the tunnel. Guzman climbs on, the engine echoes against the timber walls, and he rides smoothly along the subterranean railway, bypassing a mile of heavily restricted surface space in a matter of minutes. By the time the guards open the door to cell 20 and discover the empty hole under the shower grate, he's already miles away. The escape at Altiplano proved a terrifying reality for modern security architecture. Walls, razor wire, and cameras are only effective when the ground beneath them is solid. When infinite resources meet relentless human ingenuity, no fortress is inescapable.